Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Collider Movie Talk. Steroids are bad, but this is a fully juiced show. We are all hopped up on PEDs and ready to bring you the biggest and the baddest in the world of movies. Joining me today, you talk about all-star panels. This is Hall of Fame worthy right here. This is John Rocha.
How's it going, everybody? Roid Race! Ooh! There's a lot to talk about. We're going to get excited about today, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's a great panel. This will be fun.
Someone who never cheated, as far as we know, because she's way too classy for that, would be the one, the only, Clarke Wolfe.
No cheating here.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Very happy to have you again. And the young man in the corner, your first name escapes me. It's something with the J, I want to say. Is it J? We'll just do J. Period Washington is back.
My name is Jeff.
Welcome
name is
back
Jeff.
to the show. Jeff/J. Whole lot of news stories to get to, and we kick off with a story about New Mutants. Josh Boone, the director of the movie that has since been pushed back a year for reshoots, confirmed that it is now rated PG-13. More updates coming in as the movie is now going to be released February 22nd, 2019. So fans hoping that the movie was going to have a horror angle and would be rated R, like Deadpool and Logan were. Boone did confirm to Empire Magazine that's not the case, and the movie's going to be receiving a PG-13 rating. Here's his quote: "This movie is probably the hardest PG-13 ever made. I mean, we've pushed it. The horror is pretty dark, but there's also an emotional core too. If I can scare you and make you cry, that's the goal." Clarke, I know you've seen a lot of movies that will scare you. A lot of those have been rated R. So when you first heard about New Mutants, did you assume, like a lot of other people did, that it was going to be rated R because we saw Deadpool and we saw Logan, and then New Mutants, it's got a horror angle? That's going to be an R-rated movie, right?
No, I didn't think that because the cast is so young, and because I think Fox is trying to franchise build. They're trying to appeal to as many new audience members as they possibly can, and they're trying to make sure that it's not just the people who are, you know, the adults in the room who are coming to see Deadpool, or the people who have been with Hugh Jackman since his journey as Logan began. So I think this is them trying to build out the audience. And as far as the PG-13 and horror rating goes, you know, I have this conversation a lot with genre fans. I think the first Insidious movie is a great and very scary PG-13 horror movie. The Ring is a great and scary PG-13 horror movie. I could go on and on. I don't think that you necessarily need that hard R rating in order to achieve really great scares.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at the landscape of comic book movies. Yes, Logan and Deadpool are both awesome, and they deserve their R rating. There's a whole lot of great movies based on comic books that are not rated R. I do have to ask you, though, do you think that the fact that Disney recently purchased Fox, and even though that purchase hasn't gone through yet, because we're delaying this movie a year now, and Disney might have their hands on it even more once the movie comes out, did that have anything to do with this PG-13 rating?
I don't think so. I think Boone knew the whole way through that they were aiming for PG-13. I don't think anybody was under the illusions that it would be an R movie just because, you know, fans hear horror and they see that Deadpool and Logan were rated R. I don't think that that necessarily was the studio's approach, and I don't think that was Boone's approach either.
Well, Rocha, we know Disney does love pantsless ducks. Do you think that they put on a R rating or a PG-13 rating? Is this Disney coming in and saying, hey, once we acquire you, we're going to want this to be PG-13? Or is this Josh Boone doing what Josh Boone wants to do?
Absolutely. I think it is Disney coming in and doing this kind of a little bit. This to me seems so strange because it's like that kid in the sandbox who thinks he's really tough. It's like, well, it's going to be a hard R, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that, and it's, you just did The Fault in Our Stars. Give me a break. You know, I'm not buying this whole thing, and they're pushing it a year. So I respect Josh Boone as a filmmaker, but I think there's a lot of like trying to show that this is going to be a tough thing or a hard thing. But Clarke makes a great point. There are some great PG-13 horror films that achieve just as much as any R-rated film does, because horror doesn't always have to be about showing you all the gore. A lot of it can be mental and psychological, and especially if you look at the Sienkiewicz run that this is based on, it's very much about the psychological stuff that's going on and how that can persecute you in ways that are way more powerful than someone cutting you up for a standard slasher film. So, but I think this is interesting because they pushed it a whole year, and the deal was just announced. So this may be Disney stepping in going, listen, we want to appeal to a broader base. And remember what, I wonder if it was Iger or somebody from DC, I forget who the higher up said, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to warn the audience when he's talking about R-rated Deadpool. We're going to let them know and see ahead of time so they know what to expect. So there are these things that are kind of in motion in this situation. And we already saw a trailer that was pretty dark and powerful. So this is kind of shocking that they're pushing it like this. And I do think Disney has their hands on this a little bit.
So, Jay, we have two different points of view right now. We have Clarke saying that this is the way that they wanted to go because they want to franchise it. They want as broad an audience as possible. You have Rocha saying that maybe Disney does have their fingerprints, even though Mickey wears gloves on this. What do you think?
I do think it is possible that we're going to turn PG-13. Like, it's the evil Mickey. I do think it is Disney involved because I'm reading an article where they said already Deadpool 2 is rated R. X-Force was going to be rated R. New Mutants falls in between those two originally in their original slate. So it was already expected that New Mutants was going to be R as well. I do agree with Clarke that, yeah, you've had horror films that have been a hard PG-13 and you can bring in all type of fans. But Fox has started to find that success with Deadpool that we can do R. And then you're going to transition the Mutants with the New Mutants and make it an R film. You're going to do your first horror-based mutant film. And so you use that to go into X-Force, which is going to bring over magic as well. So I thought they were going to do that. But yeah, I do think Disney came in. Originally, they were like, hey, we're going to let you do what you do. But now they're like, we're not too sure about this.
I don't think we're there yet. I really don't. I think that New Mutants is rated PG-13 because New Mutants wanted to be rated PG-13. Because look, yes, you're going to have X-Force could be rated R, and Deadpool 2 is certainly going to be rated R. It doesn't mean that every movie that Fox makes has to be rated R now to be good. I agree with Clarke's point that horror movies don't have to be rated R, especially a horror movie that comes from comic book source material. I like how dark it's going to be psychologically, though, Rocha. I agree with you there because you have people, and this is as much from what Josh Boone has said too, is that you have kids, they're not going to be wearing costumes yet. They're not superheroes. They're developing their powers, and in the development of their powers, it has led to some very unintentional things, which could include killing people, you know?
True, but if you remember the first trailer that we saw, the first trailer gave us the horror vibes that everybody was expecting. And so when you saw that, you were like, oh, this is for sure going to be an R rating when they give it its rating. Because you started hearing how the bad guy was Demon Bear, but you didn't see it. So you know this is going to be a slasher type thing in an insane asylum. Of course, the no suits was the greatest part, the no costumes, because it was regular kids, like you said, learning about their abilities. But the environment in which everything was set in was setting it up to be an R-rated film, if that makes sense. But the fact that we're getting a hard PG-13, I want to see how hard this goes to the point where it doesn't lose anything.
Yeah, Clarke, are you disappointed in a way that it's not rated R just personally?
No, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that both of y'all really feel strongly that you just assumed it would be rated R, because Fox has taken these young X-Men and never put them in a rated R situation. And I feel like it's sort of like almost looking at the Blumhouse model in a way. Like you have all of these young kids in a horror situation, and in order to maximize your profits, why wouldn't it be? I think that their ages, like the characters being young, is the biggest indicator that it was always going to be PG-13, because it's not these adult men's story, if that makes sense, like Deadpool and Logan were.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you look at X-Men First Class, there's no way that would have been ever rated R, because you're dealing with kids that are in school for most of them. And yeah, there's one great F-bomb in X-Men First Class, but I think that you're going to have the language toned down a little bit. Doesn't mean that especially the psychological horror elements aren't going to be there. So whenever New Mutants comes out, and whatever they're reshooting it for because it wasn't scary enough or just didn't please audiences quite right, I think that has a lot less to do with Disney and a lot more to do with Josh Boone and Fox wanting to make an impact with New Mutants. All right, we're going to move on to our next story, and that is going to be The God Particle. Get ready, kids. It's a Cloverfield movie, but you don't have to go to the theaters to see it. You're probably just going to get to sit at home, turn on the remote, and stream it on Netflix, because the Cloververse is getting a little more tangled. First reported by the tracking board's Jeff Snyder. I know that guy. And now confirmed by the Hollywood Reporter, Netflix is in talks with Paramount to acquire the next movie in the Cloverfield universe, previously known as The God Particle, and rumored of late to be entitled Cloverfield Station. This movie was shot from June to September of 2016. The movie has gone through a number of release date shifts, with newly installed chairman Jim Giapoulos reportedly deciding that $40 million is a little too much and that budget needs some work, and we're not going to sit around for J.J. Abrams to dig in and help because of his commitments to Star Wars Episode 9. So, in the wake of a disappointing 2017 for Paramount, it looks as though they're going to be making some big changes going forward in 2018, and one of those is dropping properties that they don't find could be profitable enough for them to stay afloat. Rocha, Paramount did not have a good 2017. Nope. Jay, I don't know that Cloverfield was going to make a huge 2018 for them, but I also think that Cloverfield is a known property. So do you agree with this decision to ship off Cloverfield and that franchise to Netflix?
If you're talking about because it didn't make money, no. 10 Cloverfield Lane was budgeted for 15 mil. Made 110 mil gross total. So you can't say by any means that was a bust. It made its profit, what, 3, 4, 5 times over, if not more.
And I think it was critically acclaimed
critically
too,
acclaimed
so it
as
has
well.
some nice buzz.
So to say that it's not going to be something that's worthwhile for the studio is really like jumping the shark on that one, because like this is gonna make you money. People like the Cloverfield movies, and again, like you said, it's that Twilight Zone anthology without it being that. The movies are connected, but they're not connected, and people are enjoying that. So why would you sit there and put it on Netflix when you could have a box office generator? Cloverfield is going to generate you money at the box office. Why not take that shot with it? I get Paramount had a fall. I get that. But this is something that's proven to make you money. Go for this one.
Because I think that there's a lot more problems than we're hearing about right now. That all we know right now is that the movie was shot in September of 2016 is when production initially wrapped on it, and it already cost them $40 million at that point. And according to the Paramount new exec, it needs some work. So that probably means that it's going to be a lot of reshoots. And if J.J. Abrams ain't ready to go on it, we can't have this thing sitting on the shelf. Let's ship it off to Netflix. How do you see this, Rocha?
Yeah, I think it's a panic move by them. They didn't have anything happen in 2017 that was great. 2016 is when they started making these decisions that were really ponderous. Like they gave away all the rights to Interstellar. Earlier they gave away the rights to Iron Man, all this kind of, because they helped produce this kind of stuff. They sold it on the cheap, like real early in the superhero universe stuff happening. So there's a lot of interesting decisions by Paramount that led to this moment. So it doesn't just happen to one bad year. This has been happening for the last 10 years for Paramount to a degree. And so like, you're like, well, what's this mean going to Netflix? Maybe they saw it, because everything in this speaks that it could have a good global footprint. All this cast, none of these people are American. If I'm looking at it, right? Dave Oyelowo, Ziyi Zhang, Daniel Bruhl, Gugu Mbatha-Raw. So this was going to make a bigger splash for a Cloverfield property, because the last two obviously were very much based on Americans and things that are going to America. So this was going to be more of a global footprint. So to me, this is a surprise, and the reaction online has been really powerfully against this idea of it going to Netflix. And Netflix doesn't really do that well with its movies that it brings over. They never tell you. They always say to you, "Hey, we got a lot of numbers. We'll do a bright sequel. Screw the critics, blah blah blah." But we don't actually get to see those numbers. So to me, this is Paramount's way of like hiding this, selling it to Netflix. Netflix will put it out. They'll claim it got high numbers, and they'll do another Cloverfield thing, and then Paramount can go like, "Okay, we're cool." But I wonder, these steps to me reek of desperation, and Paramount it's a place where they're depending on the Mission Impossible film, and they're depending on Top Gun 2. I would not put my studio on Top Gun 2. So there's a lot of scary things happening for Paramount here, scarier than a Cloverfield movie. So we'll see what happens with this.
Are you kidding? I'd bet my life on Top Gun 2. Speaking of Mission Impossible, we have some breaking news we're going to get to right after this. But Clarke, I want to get your take on this first. Is this reeking of desperation on Paramount's part, like Rocha feels, or is this just a smart business decision to get it off to Netflix and focus on properties that could do more money at the box office?
I'm of two minds about it. So on the one hand, I wonder if the movie's not good, because that's an incredible possibility. And when you have something like 10 Cloverfield Lane, which started as a different movie, and then you have who turned out to be a very capable director in Dan Trachtenberg, being able to retrofit and fit those, and very capable cast as well, and being able to fit it all together and make a successful Cloverfield movie, that could have been a 1 in a million thing. It's easier said than done, right? So on the other hand, so I think that. But on the other hand, I think maybe this new person who is making these decisions, because Paramount has had a tough run of it lately, maybe he doesn't understand the material. It's entirely possible that he just doesn't like genre, or doesn't understand, or doesn't get it, and goes, well, we're the action franchise. The other thing I want to say is to give Paramount a little bit of credit. When I first read this story, I thought about, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I thought about Pop Star, Andy Samberg's movie Pop Star, right? So Pop Star was one of the best comedies of that year that nobody saw. And it got a huge theatrical release, and nobody watched it. And I remember thinking, if that had been a Netflix movie, it would have been the biggest comedy of the summer. And so that brings me to Cloverfield. It could be entirely possible that Paramount is going, you know what? It's really hard to figure out who's going to turn out for a wide release in the theaters. So maybe it's our best business decision to sell this to Netflix and sort of go, yeah, we don't have to. It's basically eliminating as much risk as possible.
Well, first of all, shout out to my homie Chris Red from Popstar. That's the fam.
You know who crushed that movie? Tim Meadows. God,
Yeah,
he
Pope,
is
so
Watch
good.
that movie.
Everybody.
Go watch Popstar.
Sorry if you haven't, man.
It's so good.
Yeah, check out the homie Chris Red on SNL. He owes me for this plug. But I agree exactly what you're saying. It's not knowing it and minimizing as much risk. If you've lost so much, you're like, I don't want to take this chance. But again, if you look at numbers, and which a lot of companies do, you see the Cloverfield franchise has brought you money. Again, that means also, just to what you just said, the new exec has no idea what this is.
I think that this has a lot more to do with J.J. Abrams than it does with Cloverfield. Personally, I think that J.J. Abrams had a deal with Paramount, and that deal got extended once he said, hey, I need to go do this little Star Wars movie in 2015. So his deal got delayed, but he still owes Paramount Pictures. So I think the new executive could have come in and said, okay, we want J.J. to make a movie. We don't want J.J. wasting his time with this particular movie that's already cost us $40 million, and it's probably going to cost us another $50 million for J.J. to go in and reconfigure it, and we're going to have to wait on that until after episode 9 comes out. So instead of that, let's sell this off to Netflix. Let's develop some Mission Impossible, some Top Gun 2s, and then we'll still have JJ on contract to do a movie with us after Star Wars episode 9. I think that's how the contract reads. I'm not entirely sure about that, but hey, that's what we do on this show. Occasionally, we just try to make surmises and assumptions and opinions. Something that is stone cold fact is our next story. Breaking news, Mission Impossible 6 has a title. It's called Mission Impossible Fallout, and you are looking at the first official image from it featuring Tom Cruise doing, surprise, something stupid. He's hanging on the side of a helicopter in the air. I am 100% sure that he's actually doing that just like he did the side of a plane or the world's tallest building or hanging off a cliff. Clarke, with Mission Impossible Fallout, the picture, how are we feeling about this?
So good. Feeling so good about it. Feeling like I'm in Top Gun 2 about it. I don't, I got to tell you, I loved Rogue Nation. I loved Rogue Nation. And so, with Christopher McQuarrie and company coming back, and I'm really excited for this movie. They have a lot of goodwill from me, so thumbs up.
You see Tommy hanging off the side of a helicopter, Rocha. Is this the right move for him to be making, considering that he's already had at least one stunt that didn't go so well on this particular movie? That's how they're selling it, though.
I'm a little upset at Tom on this one because a helicopter, you did a plane, you don't go backwards. Have you not seen the Fast and the Furious movies? You go into a sub, you go into space next, you hang off a space shuttle. That should have been your next stunt.
Helicopters have propellers going
Mission
around that are
I mean,
kinda
a
dangerous.
plane is like this, and then a helicopter is like
hang off
this.
the side of a
You
plane
gotta
than a
up the
helicopter.
ante. It's my finger. You got to up the ante, but no, this looks great. I'm excited for it. I've loved every single Mission Impossible movie except the second one. Shout out to John Woo, my homie. But no, this whole thing, I think I wanted to see something a little bit more action. We see him do the stunts. Show me something else.
The guy's hanging off the side of
on a helicopter.
Skydiving, same thing. I don't
Man
think
is
it's that
55
exciting.
years old hanging off the side of a
I wanna
helicopter
see
and
Cavill's
half out his
mustache
mind.
hanging
Let
off
that
the
man do
helicopter.
this, okay? He ain't got nothing else
No,
going
I'm
for
not going to let that man do this.
Let
'cause
that
then
man
when
hang off this helicopter,
No, because
Rocha.
when he breaks his ankle,
That ain't nothing to do with us, okay? He break his
for
ankle.
3 months.
Tom Cruise has enough money and enough Scientology, he can get a new ankle.
Well, he
That
can
has
get a new
nothing
ankle,
to do.
but people can't get a new job. We have to go off who don't work for 3 months.
He is
because
insured.
He breaks
He
his
is
ankle.
insured,
He
okay?
is insured, but
The
not the
production
people
does have to
working.
shut down if he gets hurt.
Yeah, because
but
a lot of people
You
were
found a
upset
Tom
when he got
Cruise
hurt.
lookalike and digitally put their face on like you did Paul Walker for the last few scenes of Fast 7, okay?
Oh, wow.
You could, I mean, look, here's what we know is that the movie is called Fallout.
And he falling out this helicopter.
He
I
is
hope
falling
so.
out of the side of a helicopter. I think a helicopter is actually more dangerous than an airplane.
Then a plane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the propeller's going
The
around.
propellers are going.
So then an engine, you're not flying into the engine. That doesn't scare you.
No, I'm good.
You can't fly up into the
Why
blades.
you always got to be by the engine, though? You can be on the other side of the engine, on the other
Yeah,
side
but
of
you
the wing.
can't fly up into the blades.
Clarke, I think you agree with this.
like,
When you get
here's
out of
physics.
a helicopter, it's a lot more of a precarious situation than it is when you're walking off a plane. You're walking off a plane, you're just like, oh, I got to hit Sbarro before I meet my connection. When you get off a helicopter, you're like, everybody's ducking because the propellers are going
There's
around.
also a lot more chance of accidents happening in a helicopter than an airplane. I feel like they're just more dangerous vehicles in the first place.
Wait.
The doors are open.
Wait, in the airplane, yes. Hanging off the airplane, no. He was hanging off the airplane.
This conversation can have no resolution.
The movie comes out July 27th of this year. That's a pretty quick turnaround for release date, so we should start seeing some promotional material fairly soon. I mean, obviously, we'll get a Han Solo trailer first, right? I don't know. There are movies coming out in theaters this weekend. Let's talk about a couple of them. First up is Hostels, the movie that looked like it could be up for some award consideration. In 1892, legendary Army Captain Joseph Blocker reluctantly agrees to escort a dying Cheyenne war chief and his family back to their tribal land, embarking on a harrowing and perilous journey from Fort Barringer, New Mexico, to the grasslands of Montana. They soon encounter a young widow whose family was killed on the plains. We also have Maze Runner, The Death Cure. Thomas leads some escaped gladers on their final and most dangerous mission yet. To save their friends, they must break into the legendary Last City, a wicked-controlled labyrinth that may turn out to be the deadliest maze of them all. I know what you're thinking. Man, the Maze Runner movies, they keep making those. This one's good. This is a good movie. I'm telling you, I saw The Death Cure. It's an awesome action flick. And I saw Hostels as well. I thought it was terrific. It is a very different movie than The Death Cure. If you're just looking to go shove some popcorn in your face, I definitely recommend Maze Runner: The Death Cure. But for a deep emotional exploration, a character study with the good story attached to it, it's going to make you think differently about the history of the United States, Hostels might be the ticket. How do you feel, Rocha?
Yeah, I saw Hostels. It's incredible. Christian Bale's performance should have been nominated and recognized by the Academy. This film got unfairly brushed aside. It is a fantastic Western, and there's not one damn moment of levity. It is as dark as it comes, and it is powerful. Scott Cooper does some incredible work when he really nails his films, and this is an incredible one. And Bale has a begrudging arc, which you don't usually see from your protagonist and your hero, and he is incredible. And Rosamund Pike, I love, since Gone Girl, they're giving her these kind of harder roles to play, and I love that finally she's getting a chance to show what she can do as an actress. And of course, it's great to see Wes Studi, the great Wes Studi.
Wes Studi is the one that I thought could have snuck in there for a Best Supporting Actor nomination. Didn't get it. Clarke, are you excited to see Hostels? You had a chance to check that out, or Maze Runner out?
No, I haven't seen either, but I have been hearing that Christian Bale is excellent in this movie. So anytime that he shows up to play, I'm always interested, for sure.
Jay Washington, which movie you seen in theaters?
I haven't seen either one, but you all have got my heartstrings going about Hostels. I've never heard so much passion from John Rocha about Christian Bale and a mustache in my life. I am going to see Hostels. Will you come with me and hold my hand?
Absolutely.
I didn't tell you on The Death Cure. It's a fun action movie.
I will go see that when...
Okay, and I'll tell you this, kids. You don't even have to see the first two Maze Runners. I saw them.
Oh, it's one of those?
They were okay. The first two were okay, but at the end of the first two Maze Runners, it's like the last 20 minutes were like, hey, we got a sequel coming, so see you next year.
No, so it's one of those movies where you don't necessarily need to see the two that came before.
It probably helps, but you don't need to. It's not worth the 4-hour time investment just to get to hear. Enjoy Maze Runner. It's a fun action movie. And go see Hostels. You're going to learn something about history. This is what we do on Movie Talk. We help teach you when you go to the box office.
Blazer on.
Yeah,
Hi,
that's
students.
right. That's why I got the blazer on.
I'm Professor Ellis.
Thanks, Dad. We're going to go to Agree or Disagree. This is a part of the show where I'll present the crew with a topic. They can agree or disagree, and fists and fur will fly. Our first topic is about Cat in the Hat. Hey, speaking of fur, remember when Mike Myers was the creepy Cat in the Hat? No longer, because Dr. Seuss properties are going to Warner Brothers Animation. That division is going to team up with Dr. Seuss Enterprises to produce a series of feature films based on the characters and stories from Seuss's catalog. We're starting with The Cat in the Hat. The film is now in development and will begin searching for a writer soon. No word yet on which other Seuss properties are poised for animated feature adaptations, and a release date for Cat in the Hat has yet to be determined. El Gato in a Sombrero.
Nice.
Jay
Well done.
Washington, Dr. Seuss. We all grew up with him. His real name was Theodore Geisel. Fun fact, everybody. Dr. Seuss, he's got a lot of great properties you could adapt into animation. I think this is the way to go over continuing a live-action development, right?
Thank you for the history lesson in that again.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
No, I do like that. You know, it could to go back to animation opposed to live action is cool. I get to see green eggs and ham again. You know, things like that. Don't judge me. I had that was one of my favorites as a child.
Is that the one you're taking to make into a feature-length movie? Is Green Eggs and Ham?
You don't know how far we can go with this.
I mean, you're riding on a train,
Again,
you have breakfast, and you're done.
But again, we're doing Cat in the Hat, and it wasn't. I mean,
Sure.
We could encompass everything technically from the Dr. Seuss lore in Cat in the Hat. Just have him go through different things. But I want to. I mean, I'm happy for it. What I'm saying is, I'm happy for it. I'm excited for it. The kid in me likes this. Rocha's looking at me like, no, I don't want to see this.
Well, I
that's
think
because
that's
Rocha's 90.
Question though, but I mean, Rocha watched Theodore Geisel write a lot of those, and he's like, "Hey, you should change your name to something more medical." Rocha, do you think that Cat in the Hat is the right movie to kick off this new Warner Brothers animation slate with?
I think this whole idea is the wrong idea. None of these Dr. Seuss films or adaptations have really done anything. The best one is still the Boris Karloff Grinch Stole Christmas, and that's 1967. So to me, this is the Cat in the Hat was terrible. The Lorax was boring. Doc Horton Hears a Who was boring, and what else did we have? Oh, Grinch Stole Christmas. A lot of people didn't like the Jim Carrey version. I don't mind it, but a lot of people didn't like it. So I have yet to see them be successful with this.
That's why you make animated movies.
But Lorax was animated, and Horton Hears a Who was animated, and nobody went to see those things.
Are you kidding? The Lorax made $350 million in the United States.
It was boring.
And Horton Hears a Who was very successful as well. I agree with Rocha, Clarke, on the live-action Grinch. I'm the biggest Jim Carrey fan you're going to meet, but I hated that movie. I think that sometimes when you adapt properties into live action, it gets precarious. I never saw The Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, but it looked too creepy. That's why I didn't go see it.
Don't ever see it.
I think animation is the way to stay with the Dr. Seuss properties. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, and I mean, also, they started out, the reason they are iconic is because they started out as hand-drawn animation, or drawing. I mean, I think it's a way to not only honor the material, but, you know, that makes sense. Also, these are not things that are meant to be live action. I don't want to see a live action Simpsons. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like
I agree with
it's
that.
weird. And so it's like this is things that human eyeballs are not supposed to behold. So anyway, yes, I think animation is the way to go. But I do agree with Rocha a little bit. I'm not energized at all by this premise.
They're 8 to 15 page books with maybe 12 to 20 lines in them. You should not be making an hour and a half features,
the thing is,
animated or otherwise.
Well, I will say, like, a lot of his stories have morals, right?
Sure,
yes. There are like a lot of there's lessons to be learned.
The Places You Will Go is a great book.
Yeah,
for that,
and so I think about something like Zootopia, right? Like Zootopia is a great animated movie. It's fun, it's entertaining, but it also has a moral to it. It has a lesson to be taught. And so I think if they take that approach, like if they picked different stories, all people who know what Dr. Seuss is can recognize that animation. So you don't need to kick it off with arguably the most famous one. Like, you can still animate in the style of Dr. Seuss with a lesser known story that might have a fun moral to it, and then, go from there.
But why can't we kick off with Cat in the Hat? It seems like you guys want Dr. Seuss movies. You just don't want to start with Cat in the Hat.
I'm with it for Cat in the Hat. I'm here for it.
It's the most famous one. It's what you should lead off with, because Illumination was the one that did the Lorax. So the Lorax and Horton Hears a Who are not associated with this because they were not Warner Brothers Animation Division, but they both made a boatload of money. Horton Hears a Who made almost $300 million domestically. And like I said, the Lorax, $350 million. So there's clearly a market for this. I'm cool with kicking off with Cat in the Hat. What is there one Dr. Seuss story that you can think of that you're like, no, this is what we should. This is what taught me. This is what taught a young Clarke Wolfe how to live her life.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and no is the answer. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I had a really big book of all of his stories, and I also did love the Lorax.
Sneetches, or the Sneetches the one where like there were some of them had like a star and some of them had like a circle on their chest, and they kind of looked like weird birds, and they'd walk around and like only the stars hung out with the stars and the circles hung out with the circles, and then I might be making all of this up, and then they finally realized that they're not so different after all, and it was a nice little lesson to learn.
You know what I love about you? You're like $300 million. Made $300 million. So Transformers movies make $1.1 billion. You still crap on them. So just because it made money doesn't mean it should be getting made.
You're the only person in history that vocally advocate for Transformers movies. We have gotten to the point we understand.
I can't be the one who made $1.1 billion.
Well, the people in China who are the ones bringing the money in, but no one in the U.S.
is just China. What's wrong with you?
Oh, and look at that. We're out of time. We have a new topic to move on to. That is a new trailer for the movie The Cured, starring Ellen Page, has just hit your interwebs. It's been released. It's a new horror thriller entitled The Cured, set in a world ravaged for years by a zombie-like virus that turns the infected into cannibals. A cure is found. A cure for zombies. It's found at last, allowing survivors to reintegrate back into society. Nothing's going to go wrong there, right? The movie comes out February 23rd, 2018. Clarke, I watched this trailer, and I immediately thought of you because you think about a horror movie. You think not because of because you were a zombie for so long and now you're back. It's because you have zombie premises, and it honestly, in today's day and age, and I enjoy a good zombie story. I was a big fan of Walking Dead for a long time, then I just stopped watching it. And there's a lot of zombie movies that have come out, and they've taken different angles on it. I've never heard of something like this where, oh, now we're better. We're healed. We can come back into society. I really am intrigued by this trailer. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm into it too. And I think, like for those of you who watch Nightmares, you know that I was saying about Train to Busan, which is a Korean zombie movie that you guys have to watch it. But you guys were telling me, Clarke, you have to watch Train to Busan. And I was like, I will not know. I'm done with zombies. No more zombies for me. That's how I felt about Spider-Man too. No more Spider-Man for me. I'm done. But then Civil War came along, and now I'm like, okay, I like Spider-Man again. And same with Train to Busan. I finally watched it because you guys told me to, and then I was like, oh, zombies are cool again. I love this take. It's reminding me a little bit of Girl with All the Gifts, which was also a little bit of a different take on the zombie subgenre. It was a European English film, and it's a great movie. It's on. You can stream it digitally now, but I'm intrigued by this, and I like you said, and like you pointed out, I like the somber and serious take, using it clearly as a metaphor, using the science of it all. Like, I think it's very cool.
Yeah, Jay, you have zombies that are now human again, fully human, but they have to deal with the repercussions of what they did when they were zombies, even though it wasn't really them. You hear that all the time in zombie movies. Like if Rocha got bit by a zombie, and I'm really trying to save him, which I'd put forth an effort, and then you guys are like, no, Mark, that's no longer Rocha, that's somebody else, and then I, cap him. But now it is Rocha again. Now he's back. He's back to being a normal human again, and he has to deal with what he did. Look at that. I think he needs one more pill. How do you feel about the movie?
I actually like it. I like the take, again, you can cure zombies. We have not seen it where you can actually cure them and they come back into society. But also, they still have the craving for flesh and stuff like that. There's
something very latent in there.
Yeah, something latent. They're starting to do what they did, but they're not zombies anymore. And that's a unique twist from what we've seen in all these other zombie movies. Like you said, either you have to kill Rocha, or you quarantine them and hope you find a cure or something like that. But the fact that they have these urges still, and we don't, from the way one of the conversations were going, the guy was sitting with Ellen Page, who's like, they don't know about us. Like, she's been through it as well. So it's a nice little twist to see how all this goes. I'm here for it.
You think Ellen Page was bit? You think she was a zombie in this?
She might have been bit.
Is that
too.
how you read this trailer too, Clarke?
I don't know. Nah, no comment.
Okay,
No
John
comment.
Rocha, do you agree or disagree with the panel on this side of the room that Ellen Page might have, in fact, been a zombie at one point?
No, I don't think she was a zombie at one point. But I will say something, and this may surprise people. Like, I remember stumbling upon a French zombie film called Les Revenants, and it's basically that. It's these people were zombies, and they have to come back to the small French town and reintegrate back. So there are shades of this here, and it's an Irish zombie film, which I think I'm all for Irish movies. I love Irish movies. I've got a shamrock in my ass, and I'm a big fan of Irish stuff. So what I will say, though, what I like about this is that it has a lot of social, political commentary to say, because it's like, well, these people are coming back, they've committed these crimes, but they were not themselves when they committed these crimes. It's like reintegrating ex-convicts, or you kind of have this idea that they're different from you, so you have the racism allegory that's going on now. So there's so much about this film that could say something very powerfully, and I hope it does. The idea that this is her brother-in-law, that means something. Where's the dad? That means something. I don't want to spoil anything about anybody, but there is a situation here that they're going to confront in the movie when this thing goes on. And you have the other guy that's been cured. He used to be a barrister, and now he's like trying to create a movement for them to push up these people that were zombies. Because the thing that I really love about this is that they don't forget what they did as they were zombies. So you have to deal with the PTSD of that for 4 years of having been this thing, and now they're supposedly cured, but how much are they cured?
Did you guys pick up on this in the trailer too, that it seemed like there was some sort of theory that some people were spouting that if you are still a zombie, there's some sort of communication that you might be able to have with somebody who's been cured who once was a zombie, almost like the way like dolphins communicate or something, and that is really intriguing, because I love these movies, because it's like, how would I react to that? And if I was in this situation and we were reintegrating people who were zombies back into life, would I just be like, oh, hey, Rocha, you want to go to Yard House? Or would I be like, hey, yeah, good to see you again. We should definitely hang out sometime soon.
Let's get the blood red
and
meat.
then get the hell out of there. I don't know. I think it's cool. objects up your rectum aside. I think it's a really cool trailer.
It's insane.
We have a very special screening that we're excited to invite some of you guys to, and that would be Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's going to be in IMAX with special guest Rian Johnson is going to be there. It's on January 31st at 7 p.m. right here in Southern California. If you are going to be in the area and you want to attend, send an email to the Collider mailbox at gmail.com and put in the subject line, I want to see Star Wars The Last Jedi with Rian Johnson, exclamation point. Include your name, and if you want to bring a guest, they're accepting emails until Sunday the 28th. Obviously, not everybody the emails is going to get in, but hopefully you guys can get it in before the deadline and see if you are one of the lucky ones that will get to attend that screening. Should be a whole lot of fun. We also remind you guys that currently up on Collider Video's channel, which you should be subscribed to, are the latest editions of Heroes, and later on today is going to be Jedi Council. Tomorrow, the all-new The Schmodown Awards. Movie Trivia Schmodown had an incredible season 4, an incredible 2017, and the award show is going to be up on the channel tomorrow afternoon. Whole lot of luminaries are going to be making special appearances, including but not limited to John Rocha, Clarke Wolfe, and Jay Washington. You guys excited about the awards?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a fun time.
Jay, what are you looking sour over there?
So excited to be nominated with Tom Dagnino in several categories.
Yeah, it's a thrill of a lifetime.
I
I
know.
will be hosting the show, so I have to prepare my jokes, prepare my suit by tomorrow. I should probably get to work on that. So make sure you guys check it out. It's going to be up live on the channel. We're all very excited about it. Then the actual Schmodown Season 5 kicks off the following Friday. Stay tuned for that. We're going to move on to Mailbag. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys at the end of this show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Let's go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video and use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. Makes it easy for me to find. In our mailbag today, Tammy Wan Kenobi writes, yesterday it was revealed that The Last Jedi novelization would include deleted scenes from the movie, even showing one with Rey and Luke on the Star Wars show. But they also revealed there would be a scene in the book with Han Solo's funeral. That begs the question, should they have included Han Solo's funeral in the actual movie? Yeah, they should have included this.
Yeah.
I would have said that. That's what I thought we were getting with the beginning of The Last Jedi. And obviously, I got a movie that I was a huge fan of. But Han Solo's funeral, that would have been really interesting. I wonder, there's a couple scenes in The Last Jedi that I can think of off the top of my head that I would have traded in for Han Solo's funeral scene. I don't know how that factors in with the way the actual movie kicks off, though, because the movie starts out at such a fast, frenetic pace. It would be hard to slow that down, then do a funeral. But if you could do a funeral somewhere in the middle, but I mean, the movie moves at a quick clip. There's always action going on. So, Clarke, would there ever have been a point when you could have slowed it down to do Han Solo's funeral?
Yeah,
properly?
I think I might disagree with everyone on the panel. As much as I guess in a way I would like to see that scene, I don't think it fits in the movie at all. Like Last Jedi, I don't think it fits there. So I actually wouldn't like to have seen it in Last Jedi. I feel like Last Jedi is all about propelling forward. We are moving forward. We are moving on, and so we're not going back.
Yeah, I'll have to ask somebody who reads books about where Han's funeral is in the story, Jay, because I don't know where you would be able to put it in.
That's why I'm sitting there playing the movie back in my head. Like, where would it fit in the movie? Because everything just moves, from the beginning fight, and then when everything happens with Finn leaving the ship and everything, it doesn't fit anywhere. It's like you should have got that as a Marvel type of one shot.
Rocha? Does it fit?
I think it could fit, not at the beginning of the movie, because every Star Wars movie begins with an action sequence, because it has to. You come out of that crawl, you're like, and you're there, okay? So, but I think there could have been something where Leia starts talking about Solo to Poe Dameron, because she says to Poe, get your head out of your cockpit, all this kind of stuff. So she knows what it's like, because he's essentially the Han Solo character of this new trilogy. So she could have been giving him some counsel, and then as she trailed off, we go into a flashback of being at the funeral. Maybe that's why there's stuff going on with Poe, stuff that, like, there could have been more here, that we could have gotten the Leia Chewie hug that we did get in Jedi. We could have gotten at the funeral.
Should have gotten that at the end of Force Awakens.
Right, should have gotten it at the end of Force Awakens. We could have had that at the funeral, which would have made sense. So I think there was a possibility to put it there maybe as a flashback, but certainly not as a present thing happening in the movie, because I agree with Clarke that the way Rian Johnson constructed that movie, it would have been weird to put it in anywhere as an actual thing happening as you're watching the movie chronologically. So maybe as a flashback when she's talking to Poe as a lesson.
Do you think there's ever going to be one in like 9 where you acknowledge that Han Solo had a funeral? Because 9 could move on years from where Last Jedi was.
I think we'll absolutely see a Leia funeral. I think you have to. I think you have to.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where's Han buried? Do we know?
That's the thing is like they're in the middle of a war and everybody's just gonna go. Hold on 1 second. I gotta go.
Right.
I gotta
do
go
it
to
real
this
quick.
place. Like it doesn't logically make
We're either
sense.
at war, or we're getting blown into space, or we're using the Force to get back into a
Han's
spaceship,
body.
Yeah,
or
we're gonna go stand around for a little while and talk about a guy. Like I just don't see the moment.
Han's body is somewhere that's locked into the Millennium Falcon, just tucked in a little compartment. No,
I don't think. Did they ever even recover Han's body? Like it fell real.
I think you're trying to say he's still alive, Clark.
Han is still
I
alive.
think you're trying to
everybody.
say he's still
Coming
alive,
back
Clark.
for episode 9. We love you, Han.
That is
Pew, pew.
that is exactly what I was saying.
All right.
Han
Hot
Solo's
take
still alive.
here on the desk. Let's move on to some live Twitter questions, and we will call it a day. Put words in Clark's mouth like that.
Clark Wolfe with a hot take.
A. Clay kicks us off, and in the midst of all this Oscar talk about who's got nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, who got snubbed, something that I missed and didn't really pay that much attention to is that the movie Logan, while it wasn't nominated for Best Picture, it did make history because, as Clay points out, Logan was the first comic book superhero movie to get an adapted screenplay Oscar nomination. What are your thoughts about the implications of that going forward, John Rocha?
I think it's fantastic. Logan is, my opinion, the best film of the year the last year, and the dialogue is one of the main reasons for that. His progression, his interactions with Charles Xavier, with Patrick Stewart, his interactions with Daphne Keane, those are very powerful, emotional moments. And the stuff that goes on with Richard Grant and Boyd Holbrook. Also, Boyd Holbrook is the unsung hero of the movie, in my opinion. He's great scenes as well as the villain in the film. So there's so much that's happening here that you could not have conveyed, and the film would have not have been as powerful if you hadn't had a fantastic script. And it also says something that these superhero movies, finally, once and for all, piece by piece, step by step, are going to be taken a little more seriously by the Academy when they warrant it. And I want this to happen quicker than it's happening right now, but I'll take this for now as a next step in the process. You know, Heath Ledger won for Best Supporting Actor, so in 2008. So there is a history of it slowly happening. So I hope 10 years from now, we won't be having this issue that's a superhero film. It shouldn't be considered for an award.
Clark, is it more about what Logan was nominated for with Best Adapted Screenplay, or more about what it wasn't nominated for, with Patrick Stewart missing out, Hugh Jackman missing out, and the movie not being nominated for Best Picture?
Well, I think going forward, first of all, I don't think going forward it does not signal a shift, unfortunately, because as you say, Rocha, Heath Ledger was nominated or won Best Supporting Actor 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years. That's such a long time.
It seems like we've taken that step back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that, don't at me, okay? But the fact that I sincerely believe that, you can make the case for Logan. I think you can make the case for Wonder Woman. That 10th slot in that Best Picture could have been for either one of those properties. And the fact that it wasn't is just a drag. Now, to your question about what it is or what it isn't, the fact that it was nominated for anything in one of the main categories, I think is huge because once again, Wonder Woman, which had such fan and critic support, just was completely shut out. So, Patrick Stewart, I think, was a long shot. I think it could have maybe happened in a different year, but these races are always so tight. And James Mangold was a long shot. So the fact that it got Best Adapted Screenplay, I think, is a huge deal.
I love that point. Jay, picking up from Clark's point, do you think that this is a step forward like what Rocha hoped The Dark Knight would be, or do you think that this is going to be an aberration and that it's going to step back 10 years from now?
It's making the Academy look. They have to pay attention now. You took a graphic novel in which Old Man Logan is, you adapted it into this movie that was critically acclaimed, and of course it came out too early. It just came out too early. But yes, is also to Clark's point, this was a tight race this year. So for it to be even considered and held up that long to an adapted screenplay is good. Now, we have other movies coming along, but are these considered the cartoony ones in superhero movies?
I think, and that's the next point, I think, is that these films have to step up to the level of Dark Knight and Logan to be considered for the game. Not just every superhero should be considered.
Because I think we all
and I agree,
agree.
Wonder Woman too.
Yeah, Wonder Woman
definitely make an
Wonder
argument
Woman was
for that.
not cartoony.
Right.
No.
Nope.
It wasn't cartoony, and that's the thing. Wonder Woman wasn't, Dark Knight wasn't, Logan wasn't.
Right.
But when you talk about a Spider-Man, when you talk about the Avengers, these are, in a sense, even though they're great films, they're cartoony in nature.
Yeah.
So they look that way. So as long as the movies start not to look that cartoonish superhero-ish, comic bookish feel, then they'll be more acknowledged.
I also think that it comes down to what the studios are going to push.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the studio knew that Heath Ledger's performance was, again, fan favorite, critical favorite, and of course his untimely passing. I think the studio knew that they could essentially they could actually make it onto the ballot. And I think Fox, at the same time, kind of knew that Apes wasn't going to do it for them this year, which I think is unfortunate because that trilogy is a brilliant trilogy and deserved more recognition than it got from the Academy. But I think they knew that their push could have been and would have been Logan. And so it was smart that they actually went for it, because one of the things that I've been reading about why Wonder Woman might have gotten shut out is because WB didn't make that push. They had other contenders. They had Dunkirk. They had other things that they wanted to sink their resources in. So it's something to consider.
Another great question, and another great questioner who's had a lot of good Twitter questions recently is Janine the Machine. Janine Devine says, who had the better run of movie soundtracks? Was it Kenny Loggins in the 80s or Bryan Adams in the 90s?
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins.
This is a
Kenny
non-question.
Loggins. Why are we asking this?
Okay, let's be fair. Let's set the competitors here. So Kenny Loggins had a pretty good trifecta with Caddyshack, Footloose, and Top Gun. Bryan Adams had one of the all-time best-selling soundtracks ever with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and I happen to be on Bryan Adams' IMDb right here. He also did the soundtrack for such movies like, God, that guy's worked a lot. Bryan Adams is one of the best rock voices of all time.
He does have a beautiful
He's Canadian.
Yeah, he was in The Cutting Edge. He did a song for. He did Excess
I would argue
Baggage.
Joe Cocker had a better
too.
soundtrack situation than Bryan Adams did. I think Joe Cocker versus Kenny Loggins makes sense.
But if you go by their individual decade, I think Kenny Loggins is the all-time
decade,
king. But
yeah.
somebody who might be such a not a one-hit wonder because she had other music that was for movies in the 90s, but Whitney Houston with The Bodyguard. I mean, that is that is just next level stuff.
Sure.
Agreed.
But Kenny Loggins, even in crappy films like Caddyshack 2, his song Nobody's Fool is fantastic. His song in Over the Top is great. So even in crappy films, he had great music. So Kenny invariably wins over Bryan Adams. Although I do still like that. Everything I do it for you. It's a good song.
Yeah, it's a great song. Great wedding song.
Great
Great
wedding
song
song.
to just drive to when you're by yourself. And okay, we'll move on to the next Twitter question. Let's keep it in the realm of music, though. I want to expand this from this question because Brian Cruz asked a question that might be a little more near and dear to my heart than anybody else's. But if you have a band or a musical artist, singer-songwriter, whatever, that you want to see get a biopic, in this case on Netflix, he says that the Motley Crue biopic is being produced by Netflix. Motley Crue is this very famous, very sultry book, The Dirt, which is their history, and it's being produced by Netflix. Here's your cast. Daniel Weber is going to be playing. He was the blonde guy in The Punisher who was dealing with PTSD in the Netflix series. He's going to be playing Vince Neil. Iwan Rheon, who played Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones, fitting, is playing Mick Mars. Tommy Lee, the drummer, is going to be played by Machine Gun Kelly, and Douglas Booth is playing Nikki Sixx. So that is coming to Netflix sooner rather than later. Is this something you guys are interested in? And if not, what band or singer-songwriter do you think deserves the Netflix treatment? Jay Washington?
I'm in for that with the cast you announced.
Yeah.
I like that, but I would like to see a Nirvana one too.
A Nirvana?
I would love to
biopic.
see a Nirvana one.
Okay, cool.
I was a Nirvana fan. Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I was a Nirvana fan living on the south side of Chicago. Don't you judge me. Thank my uncle who drank a lot.
Jay Washington turning the south side of Chicago into Seattle's underground. Clarke Wolfe.
I'm going old school, and I'm going Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see, honestly, because there's been a lot of like dramatization of Judy's life, but I'd kind of like to see Liza's, because we're talking Studio 54, we're talking Fosse, we're talking like the crazy times. I mean, and she was a rock star. Oh, and Paul Allen from Boy from Oz, or Peter Allen? Peter Allen. And her story is just so fascinating.
Can you imagine one of those like Goodfellas style restaurant shots of walking into one of Liza's parties,
I mean,
like in the heyday?
And those stories too about like all of her friends, like all the people they were just casually friends with, and they'd have parties and you just come and hang out and sing around the piano, and it's like every major musician of any decade was there. It's just it would be debaucherous and amazing and fabulous. Oh, or Cher. Oh,
There you go.
Y'all got Clark going down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Who would play Cher though?
oh my God, I
That
don't
would
know.
be the question. Who would
It'd
play
have to be an
Cher?
unknown. Have to be an unknown.
Yeah.
Someone just as like fabulous. Cher is 71, you guys.
Yeah, and
I think
looks-
Cher can
71.
still play Cher, but
Hells yeah.
we'll see. Pretty good actress. Rocha.
Remember we had 40 Janis Joplin picks? Remember that? And then
Yeah.
they never, ever came out? Look, my thing would be either Bob Marley, because there's so much to explore there. That documentary, if you haven't seen that documentary on Netflix,
Yes.
it's worth 2.5 hours of your time. And the other one is the Beastie Boys. I think for a lot of reasons, because the Beasties started out as a bit of these like kind of rude, sexist, misogynistic assholes. And then eventually they, through their own exploration as young men, they discovered these in their own relationships. They became one, I think, became a Buddhist and all that, and then one of them died recently. So like, there's a lot to explore here to see their progression that could leave a
pioneers in
lot of
hip-hop.
pioneers in hip hop,
They're
right? As
just
white guys,
they're
three
white
white
guys who are
Jews from New
pioneers in
York,
hip-hop.
exactly. And so there's a lot to explore here that would have been fun, and I think David Bowie too. Bowie would be incredible.
The documentary just came out on HBO.
Yeah.
That is
Last
fantastic
5
stuff. A
years,
lot
yeah.
of great comments in the chat room right now. Ben Harrison says Wu-Tang. That would be a great story
yeah.
to tell. I mean, look, just alone for the fact that Old Dirty Bastard
That's
once got a
ODB.
limo to go pick up his welfare check. That is amazing. He got all of his kids in the limo, then they went down to go pick up the welfare check. Jonathan Peck says Fleetwood Mac, and Casey Supersonic 1 says the Eagles would be a great choice.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever going to be an Eagles movie, but check out the documentary, The History of the Eagles. It might be the best music documentary I've ever seen. That is all the time we have for today on Collider Music Talk. Excuse me, Collider Movie Talk. Thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank everybody behind the scenes as well as everybody up here with me. We got a couple extra seconds, so let's have everybody say their goodbyes. John Rocha, start with you.
All right, guys, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Remember the Cinephiles on iTunes and Outlaw Nation. New one coming out today with Gray Drake.
Guns N' Roses, that'd be a good one, too.
Ooh, yeah.
Clarke Wolfe, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for
How
having
can the kids find you?
me. You can find me at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolf with an E, and I also have a podcast called Sending the Wolf. John Rocha has been on it.
It's a great podcast.
Thank you. And you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But give it a listen. I think you'll really like it. Hector Navarro was this week. It was a great one.
Speaking of Sending the Wolf, I think I got an email from something like that I need to respond to real quick. Mr. J. Washington, where can everybody find you?
That's where you can find me, Mr. J. Washington on Twitter and Instagram, MrJaywashington. Check out the Trusty Sidekick podcast. Myself and Bobby Hill get you caught up on everything in the Marvel and DC news, and the Wrestling Compadres Slamcast. Me, Johnny LaQuasto, Scott Narver, and Dale Rutledge.
Okay, you're sure they can find you on Twitter now? You're sure they can
I
find you on
am
Twitter?
responding to people on Twitter. I am out of Twitter jail. I am free, and I'm going to stay free. Revolution.
Congratulations. I am always free on Twitter at Mark Ellis Live. I'll be at the Ice House Comedy Club right here in Southern California, in Pasadena, this Friday and Saturday. I will see you guys there. I'll be at the Omaha Funny Bone and the Portland Helium coming up in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for that, MarkEllisLive.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.